What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to take a look at building static sites with Jigsaw. Jigsaw is maintained by the fine folks over at Titan and is a static site generator built with Laravel's Blade templating engine. So if you need a static site and you like using Laravel, Jigsaw is a great choice. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the features of Jigsaw. So let's install it. Let's go into the docs and we have to create a new directory. So let's do this. So make dir, say Jigsaw example, and then cd into it, and then composer require Jigsaw example, and then composer require it. Okay, that's done. What's next? So let's initialize our project here. So we can run this Jigsaw init command. And there's also starter templates, which we'll take a look at the end of the video. But for now, we'll just go for the default template. So Jigsaw makes use of Laravel Mix to handle all your front-end assets. So we have to npm install everything first. Okay, and now we can npm run watch to run a dev server. And this should auto reload as you make changes. Okay, so here's the default. It's just a basic hello world with no styling, no anything. So let's take a look at the default folder structure in our code editor. Okay, so we have a config, which we'll take a look at with regards to the features of Jigsaw. The source folder has all our assets, our layouts, and our index page here. So here's our index. And if you're familiar with Blade, then the syntax is very familiar. So it's extending from here, and there's one master layout. Here's the master layout, and it's using Mix to compile the main CSS, which is in here. And also take a look at the Webpack Mix.js if you want to make any changes to your Laravel Mix config. So as you expect, if we make a new page here, so let's just duplicate this index and let's make a about page. This should work. I think you have to restart the server though. So let me just restart this. Oops, this one. And restart it. And now we should have an about page. So if you go /about, that should work. Cool. Also, if you want, you can add folders and add an index.blade.php within that folder, and that should work as well. So for example, if I were to make a new folder called team, and then within there, I'm just going to grab this, add a new index.blade.php, and it should be team. Again, this should work, but we have to restart our server. Let me double check that. Do we really have to restart? I think we do. Yeah, so let me just restart. So yeah, every time you add a new page, you have to restart, unfortunately. Okay, so now team, there you go. So I'm just gonna add to this layout. So we have a basic nav in here that has our pages that we just created. So let's do that. So I'm going to paste in some CSS here just to save some time, just some utilities so I can quickly whip up some CSS. So let's go into our master, and I'm going to make a nav here. Nav, and I'm going to give it a class of flex, item center, and justify between. So I have the logo on the left and the nav items on the right, and I'm going to give the body a class of container. And the first one is going to be h1. It's going to be an anchor tag. Just going to go to the home page, and we'll name it Jigsaw. And then the next flex item will be flex as well. This is where the menu items will go, items center. And I'm just going to stick with divs and put an anchor tag in here. And this is going to about, And let me add a class on this. MR4. And this one will go to team. And see how it looks. And I think I want to center it, so I think I have to add one more CSS class. Margin auto or MX auto. I'm just copying Tailwind's utilities. So margin left auto, margin right auto. And now for the container, let's just set this to MX auto, so that should be centered. Okay, so now about and home. Cool. Not going to worry too much about styling here. Okay, next I want to take a look at helper methods. And the helper method that I want to create is this one in the example here. And this just detects if the page is selected and adds a class to it if you need it. So I want, if we're on this page, and I want this to have a selected class, and same with team. So in our config, we can just add this selected key and it returns a closure. And here is the code that returns selected if it's in the path. So let's grab this. Let's go into our config right here. And let's add that. So I'll put it right here. Okay. And now go back here. In our nav, we can add this to the class section, and this will detect if it's selected or not. And in my CSS, I think I have a definition for selected. I pasted it in, yeah, so it just makes it bold. So let's go ahead and do this. So it should be class. Let me just copy one of these. And let's go back to our index or master. And here we can replace this. And same with over here. And if I did this correctly, this should make the menu item bold if it's on that page. So let me just change this to team. And this should be team as well. And see if this works. Okay, so as you see, if we go to the page, sorry, forgot to change this. Go to team, that should be bold as well. Cool. Okay, so let's make a blog. So I want on the main page to have a blog role here. And then as you click on it, it goes to a specific blog post. I also want to do it in Markdown, and Jigsaw has Markdown support out of the box. So if you just name our file .md, it should work, and it should convert it to HTML. So let's go ahead and make a new folder in here called blog, and let's add some Markdown files in there. So I'm going to make a new file. Let's call it blog post1.md. And I'm going to paste in some Markdown here. Just a few Markdown elements. And now, since this is Markdown and not a blade file, we have to specify a few things. So in our blade file, we have this extends directive, which lets us know which layout to use. Now we have to do that in YAML front matter. So let's go ahead and do that. So up here, we can just specify some variables specific to this blog post. And the first thing, like I said, we want to let it know which layout it extends. So in our case, it's layouts.master. Actually, I'm going to make a new one. So let's say layouts.blog. So the section is the thing you want to yield. So if we were extending master, we'd want to yield body. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be body. And you can specify any other variables here, like the title, blog post 1, and say the author or something. And I'll show you how to render that in a second. Okay, first let me make this new layout. So I'm going to duplicate this. So this one will be called blog. And now this nav is now repeating in both sections. So that's not good practice. So what we can do is extract it to a partial, just like in Blade. So if you look for partials here, it's exactly the same as in Laravel. So just make a new folder. Where's partials here? So yeah, just make a new folder called _partials, and then you can include it wherever you need it. So let's do that. New folder. Oops. Partials. And let's call this nav. I'm going to paste that in. Oops. Let's grab this nav here. Now we're going to include it. It's partials.nav. Like that. And then I'm going to go to my nav, paste that in, re-indent that. And it should still work. Let me just change the master one too. This. Oh, I did change the master one. Let me change the blog one. Okay. So I might have to restart the server. Let me do that quickly. Okay, and everything still works. Cool. But now, let's see if our blog works. So it should be blog and blog post 1. And there we go. The Markdown is automatically converted into HTML and rendered in the browser. So you can also render out these custom variables that you made in the front matter. So right here, if you just render it out like this, we can get the title and the author or any custom variables that you made just like this. So let's do this. And let's go back into our blog template. And let's put it right before the body. And this should work. There you go, cool. So yeah, this is redundant, or you can just not add it in the template. I'll just leave it. So yeah, I'm gonna make a few more blog posts behind the scenes, just so we have more content to work with. So a few more Markdown files in the blog folder. Okay, so I added 2 more here, and as you expect, they should work in the browser. Blog post 2, and 3 works as well. Okay, now I want to add some styling for the Markdown over here. So I'm just going to use this library that has the minimal styling for the GitHub Markdown style. And I've used this over my last few videos. So let's go ahead and you can pull it in. I'm just going to use the CDN here. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to go into my template for my blog right here. And I'm going to add it right here. So link. Okay. Now we need to add this extra CSS over here, right here. And then we also need to wrap the code we want in Markdown body. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm just going to add a style tag here. And paste that in. And then let's indent that. Then I'm going to, let's wrap these 3 in a new div. Say div dot markdown body. Okay. So this should now render some decent styles. See if this works. Okay, so there you have the CSS for GitHub Markdown. Okay, now I want to have an index for these blog posts. So obviously we can do it manually. Let's take a look at that first. So let's go to our index and just put it here. So I'm going to do a UL, LIA, and blog post 1, blog post 1, and this should work. Okay, that should link appropriately. And it does, cool. So I'm just going to add the other ones in manually. Okay, so there they are, and they link appropriately. But now I want to make this sort of dynamic. So when we add a new blog post, I want it to automatically show here. And we can accomplish that by using a feature called collections. So where's it in the docs? Right here. So defining a collection, you can add an array named collections in the config. And there's also a whole bunch of options. So let's take a look at doing this. So let's go to our config. We want to have a new collection for posts. So let's add that in the array here. And we'll just leave the default config. So now this is going to look for a folder named posts or underscore posts. And whatever files we put in there will be available in the collection. So I'm just going to leave this. So we're going to make a new one called posts, underscore posts. So I'm going to put a few markdown files in here. So let's start with one, blog. I'll name it my first post, so you don't get confused with the other ones. My first post, MD. And I'm going to take what we have in here, copy that, paste it in here. And we have to add one more thing here in our YAML front matter, and that's the slug. So I'm going to name it my first post. And I'm going to go ahead and add a few more in here. Okay, so I added 2 more here, my second post and my third post. And this should work if we just go to the URL, so posts, my first post. Sorry, I think I have to restart the server. Okay, so there it is. But now, if we go into the blog role, we can fetch the posts dynamically. So I'll show you how to do that. So back in our index, I'm just going to add an H2 here. This one will be the manual blog role. And then this next one will be the automatic blog role. And we now have a variable available to us called posts. So we can just use the for each directive in Blade to iterate over it. So posts as post. And we can just add a list item in here. So list item href equals, so to get the correct URL, we would do post URL. So we have to do post get URL, like that. And then to get the title, we would just do post title. Okay, see if this works. And there you go. My first post, my second post, my third post. And it links correctly. Cool. And there are more features here for collections, which we won't take a look at, but you can read through them if you like. Stuff for sorting, pagination, and stuff like that. But we will take a look at remote collections, which allows you to pull in data from a remote API, and then you can pull it in to our local collections and do whatever we want with them. So there's an example here. Where is it? Here. Fetching collection from a remote API. And that's what we'll do here. So in our case, we're going to make use of the Reddit API, which I've done dozens of times before. So if you're not familiar, if you go to any subreddit and add .json at the end, you can get the information for that subreddit. So in our case, we're going to do this subreddit. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I think it ends there. And we'll change this to Reddit. So back here, back to our config. Let's add another one. Let's call it Reddit. Is this the right one? Okay, it is. Reddit. So it's going to extend layouts. Let's just make it extend the blog. It's fine. Or just a normal one, actually. And the items, as you can see, they're using JSON decode file get contents to get the info from the remote URL, and we'll just stick with that. www.reddit.com/r/aw.json, and we have to add this query string. And now I want to iterate over each result. And in my case, I know the structure of data coming back. So I know it's going to be post data children is the thing I want to iterate over. And the children are the posts. So just look at the JSON coming back. So data children. Again, I've done this like over a dozen times already, so I know. And here is the data we want available for each Reddit post. So in my case, I want the ID. That's going to be post data ID. I want the title. It's going to be post data title. I want the thumbnail. Actually, we're not going to use the thumbnail, but I'll just add it anyways. Post data thumbnail. And the content is the thing we actually want rendered in the browser. And you can actually do Markdown in here as well. And we just want the image rendered out in here. So I'm just going to do the Markdown for the image. So this is the image coming back, the image URL. So I think I have to restart my server again. Actually, before I do that, let's list them in our index blade. So I'm going to do this again. Copy that. Let's say Reddit/r/aw. And then for each, now we have a collection called Reddit. And we can just save it as post. We can do li post. Get URL is fine. It'll just generate a default URL, which I'm okay with. And let's put the title in here. That's already title. Okay, so now I'm going to restart my server, see if this works. Okay, I think it's not working because for the layout that we're extending, it has to have the content key. So I'm going to make a new one here called Reddit. And I'm just going to duplicate this one, and instead of body, it has to be content. So I'm going to duplicate this, and let's name it Reddit. And same thing, but we want this to be content. Okay, now we just restart this. And now if I go to one, there we go, there's the image. So obviously you can set a max width on the image, but let's just pick another one. There we go, cool. So now I want to quickly deploy this to Netlify. So there's a section in the docs for deploying your site. And here it says to add a netlify.toml file. And we'll add this. So just put this in the root directory. So new file, netlify.toml, paste that in. And now I have to make a GitHub repo. So I'm going to make this is this already a GitHub repo? It's not. So git init. Now we can git add, git commit, first commit, and hub create, and git push origin master. Okay, now let's go to Netlify. Let's search for Jigsaw. And here's the one we just created. And it detected the Netlify file, and this should work. So let's go ahead and deploy it.
A few moments later.
Okay, so that should be deployed now. So if you click Preview Deploy, there it is. So there's our manual blog, and there's our automatic blog, and there is our Reddit posts. Cool. Okay, the last thing I want to take a look at is using a starter template, and we'll look at the blog one. So instead of doing init, just do init blog. There's also one for docs, and this one has a ton of features that come out of the box, including all of this. It comes with Tailwind, it comes with Purge, it comes with syntax highlighting with Highlight.js, and also some search with Fuse and View. So here's how it looks like. And it has some blogs, some blog posts, a newsletter sign up, and it's very nicely designed. You have a search here, so search for blog. This is using Fuse, I believe. And yeah, you can play around with this, and you'll see a lot of the things that we learned throughout this video. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to take a look at building a static site with Jigsaw. Definitely a great choice if you're primarily a Laravel developer and you like using Blade as a templating language. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.